So in this video, we'll talk about demand, the demand schedule, and how to get to a demand curve. Now, when we talk about demand, you want to keep this in mind that you want to think like a buyer, okay, as if you were purchasing a good or a service in the marketplace. Now, when we talk about quantity demanded in the market, this is the amount. We are referring to the amount of a good or service that buyers are willing and able to produce. To purchase. Okay, the words willing and able are important because it's not enough to just be willing to buy something, but you should be able to buy it also, okay, or purchase it also. So it has to be backed by some kind of purchasing power, okay? And so let's talk about what do we mean by the law of demand, okay? Now, when we think about, let's say, the price of ice cream, maybe this will not apply to ice cream because we love ice cream, but let's say the price of ice cream went up, okay? Your demand for ice cream might go down, okay? Other things equal. We'll talk about this in a minute. Okay, other things could mean things like your tastes and preferences. So we're not thinking that all of a sudden you don't like ice creams, or your income's not changing. Okay, so it's staying the same, and some other factors that we will uncover very soon. Okay, but the idea here is that there is this inverse relationship that exists. You see this inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. I'm representing quantity demanded by QD. Okay, so what does the law of demand say? The law of demand says that when the price of a good or service rises, the quantity demanded of the good falls. Okay, this is keeping other things equal. Many times this other things equal is also referred to as ceteris paribus. It's a Latin term that says that nothing else changes, okay? And you can imagine the opposite, right? So you think about the opposite happening. When the price of a good or service falls, the quantity demanded of that good or service rises, other things remaining the same. So this is the law of demand, okay? And so let's get to understanding for one individual what demand might look like, okay? So here is, here we are going to discover what someone's preferences are at each given price. So we are thinking about, it's easier when you think about one good that, so let's talk about lattes. And we are thinking about the demand schedule or the preferences that Maya has. Okay, so if we ask Maya, well, how much or how many lattes do you demand at $0? So when lattes are free, right? So the first column is telling you the price, and the second column is telling you the quantity demanded for Maya. So when we are thinking about this, Maya may give us an answer like 16 lattes because they're free, so you want more. But as soon as you tell Maya, well, the price of the latte is now $1, then Maya might only demand 14 lattes. Okay, and so as the price increases, you may have less and less demand from Maya for lattes. Okay. Okay, so you notice here as price is going up, quantity demanded is going down. Okay, and so a demand schedule is a table that shows the relationship between the price of a good and the quantity demanded. Okay, so notice here that Maya's demand actually follows or obeys the law of demand. So this type of preference schedule or demand schedule obeys the law of demand. So what we're going to do next is move from the demand schedule. This is the same demand schedule for Maya. Okay, and we're going to move from the demand schedule to a demand curve. Okay, and a demand curve is just a graph. Demand curve is a graph that plots I should say not plots, but it's a graph that has price on the vertical axis. Okay, so price is going to go here and quantity on the horizontal axis. So here's quantity. Okay, so remember this is X and this is Y. This is written opposite. A lot of times when we write out the demand schedule, price is always given first, but this is on the Y axis. You want to make sure you don't make a mistake when you're plotting. Okay, so when you want to plot this point right here, this is going to be 16, 0. Okay, so you might want to write out what those points are. 14, 1, 12, 2, 10, 3, 8, 4, and 6, 5. Okay, so what we can do is, since we know that quantity demanded is on the x-axis, this is our x and this is our y, right, in terms of coordinates, then we can mark those, or maybe we can start with 4. Okay, so maybe we start with, this is 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16. Okay, and then we have prices 1, 2, 3, 4, and then maybe this is 5 right here. Okay, so you want to make sure that the graph is drawn to the appropriate scale. So let's plot 16, 0. Okay, let's take a different color here. 16, 0 is going to be this x-intercept here, and then 14, 1 is going to be here. 12, 2 is going to be right here. 10, 3 is going to be here. 8, 4 is going to be here. And 6, 5 is going to be somewhere there. Okay, so when you plot these points together, now this might not look like a straight line, but I'd like it to be a straight line. What you get is a demand curve. Okay, so these points may be right here. Okay, so this red line is your demand curve. Okay, but this is an individual, remember, this is an individual demand curve. Okay, and so we can go from an individual demand curve to a market demand curve. And you can think about market demand as if you were just summing up individual demands for a good and service. So market demand is just the sum of individual demands for a good or service. Okay, so now let's assume that Maya and Bernie are the only two buyers in the market for lattes. Okay, so in practice we can have many different buyers, but for now we will just assume that there is one Maya and a second buyer who is Bernie. Okay, and let's say we know what Maya's preferences are for lattes when at different price points. Okay, so we may also know Bernie's quantity demanded at each price. Okay, so let's say this is given to us, and let me write this down. Let's say this is just 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Okay, so let's stop there, and let's say we wanted to get to what is market demand or what is total demand for lattes. Okay, so if we just have these two people demanding lattes, then we can add these numbers up and get to what we call market demand. So we're adding up the individual demands and getting to this. Okay, so this is 24, this is 21, this is 18, this is 15, and this is 12, and this is 9. Okay, so notice again, as price is going up, as we go from 0 to 5, quantity demanded is falling, right? This is market demand, which is falling. Okay, so again, it's obeying the law of demand. And you can obviously plot this as well, and you'll find out when you plot these points. Let's say you plot 24, 0, 21, 1, 18, 2, 15, 3, 12, 4, and 9, 5, you are also going to get a downward sloping demand curve. Okay, so the idea here is that even if you have many buyers, this is on average you're going to see that the demand curve is going to slope downwards. Okay, and the downward slope is telling you that there is this inverse relationship between what's on the x and y axis, which is price and quantity.